Go ahead.
Cool. All right, so this is your site, and we're going to get you login information. Each manager can have their own login and everything, so we'll get to that. But
today, you'll have to send me a list of all the managers and their first name, last name, and email, please. I think I have the emails already.
We have all the the chefs, but if we want other managers and stuff on there.
Is it important that we put their names on it, or can we just call a manager at the store
whatever
name?
you...
Or chef at the store name?
Whatever you want.
Okay, because that's pretty much how the emails all work now. Everybody has a chef at email.
Perfect. Yeah, whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with.
All right.
So right here is your current restaurant group. This right here is going to be your drop down per location. And as you give us those users, we're going to set it up by each user will have different access based on their rights. Okay? And people at corporate will have access to all of the locations. Okay, so I like to click on this so that I can read things, but other people can memorize icons and can see it like that. Whatever you prefer.
Once you do it a few times again.
Yeah, you kind of get so used to it. For some reason, it doesn't stick in my head though. Okay, so order edge is where we place orders off of that grid, and we're going to go into each one, but I'm going to give you an overview first. Okay, so that's what order edge is. Order by order guide is when you want to order from a specific vendor only. So it can either be on the grid, or you can order by order guide, or a combination of both, okay? And we'll show you that. Pending orders is if you save an order you're not ready to send, you can only send an order that you're ready to have, okay? So if you want an order, it's Monday, and you want an order on Thursday, then you set it to pending, because we need to send all orders, okay?
Can we tell it when to send, or do we?
No,
We have to send it
you
when
have
we're
to
ready?
send it when
Okay.
you're ready, okay?
Manual.
Yep. Order history is where we're going to see all of our history, okay? Manage items, this is going to be there's a couple of things in manage items. So I'm going to click on manage items. This is new. It's called our product list, and we'll be going over that today. And it's basically a list of your raw materials and all the rules about the raw material. So I buy sweet and low, how I buy it, who I buy it from, is it on my grid, what's my par level, all of that. New items list is any item that was added to an order guide that you have that's never been in the system before. So it's important to keep that list clean, because if your vendor has replaced, sweet and low with a new sweet and low SKU number, it's going to come up on your new items list. Okay. Missing items is what I was telling you for Cheney. So when we set up, we can either set it up to automatically send missing items on a regular basis, or we can have it manual. So what a missing item says is Cheney doesn't have on their grid these 100 items. Right, so we have to set the grid first before we can say what's missing. Okay, and then category list is going to be a list of your categories: dairy, meat, grocery, produce. Okay, and I'll talk more about GL codes in just a second. Okay. But the category list we imported off of your spreadsheet. Okay, and then your storage lists are where your different lists, what we also imported off of your spreadsheet for material lists. Storage list here is not storages for count sheets. Don't worry about that. Once we get to count sheets, we're going to be able to, we have a whole different set of storages. In the dining edge side of the software, an item can only be in one storage location. And we think of storage locations as is where do you go and count it. Like those hot sauces would not be inside stand here. They would be in dry storage.
Correct.
But on the count sheets, they'll be in dry storage and side stand. Okay, so storages are where are you ordering it? Where do you
Like
go
lines
look?
or produce, not bar, even though they're used at bar.
Correct, right, and you keep it in the cooler.
Correct.
Okay, so that would be your category produce. Cooler would be your storage for ordering. Okay, so in dining edge, storages are primary, storages for ordering. GL codes, which we'll go through today, okay, this is where I set up my GL code, and it's going to be your GL code for where the inventory or where the invoices hit. So it's either for produce, it may be an asset account, okay, but for chemicals, if you direct to expense, then it's an expense account, okay? So depending on how you check those invoices into QuickBooks, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if anything you direct to expense should be an expense account. Anything that you manage as an asset should be an asset account.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go in there sometime today. You and I, we're going to break off into groups as Lance and Aaron are doing the comps. So you and I can go print the GL codes, enter all the GL codes, and then link the GL codes. Whoops. went back one too many, and then link them to categories.
Categories,
So if Lance is set up, and I'm just using an example, dairy, meat, produce, grocery, but in QuickBooks you only do food, then we can link multiple categories in Dining Edge to one GL code or multiple. So we'll
I broke them all up,
right,
so we're good.
Perfect. So we'll be completing that later today, is all of your GL codes and linking them to categories. Then we come into reports. These are our reports off of purchasing only. So it's going to be our savings report, our trending report. Delivered items report is where we check in our goods, and that's something we didn't do at Rappaport Group, which we're going to be doing. Delivered items or order history, we can check in either way. They act exactly the same. And then eventually, if we decide to set up budgets and descending GL codes, we can do that.
Definitely would like to use that.
That's awesome.
Okay, so that's kind of the overview. Then my account is where some of the settings are. So manage your users. Lance will probably go over that with you so that you're managing all users for all locations. And also that's where we're gonna set up a little bit of the security. So we have no users in here. And then Dawn's gonna go ahead and create the users. When we do that,
What do you have, like security classes for each user?
no, we just it's very basic. So in Los Cabos, they'll either have
Permissions, yeah.
create order, submit order. So each user you'll just check off what they can do within Dining Edge. Okay. So, okay, and then if you want, let's say Aaron's also going to be working and helping at Boathouse, and we would give him access to both locations.
Very cool.
And then maybe 6 weeks from now, you're not helping with Boathouse anymore, we can always turn it off. So if somebody works in multiple locations, we can give them access to multiple locations. They just have to be careful not to place an order in the wrong location, right? So, just, okay?
So we're gonna get an iPad?
You have iPads already?
No, is there?
Yeah, no. I'm talking to Niels and Daniel about that already.
Because then
yeah,
you don't need to sit on a computer, you can do your order while you're walking through.
exactly.
That's ideal.
Yeah. It's just the Wi-Fi in the walk-in type thing we got to work on. But yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
All right, so this is your dashboard. A couple of things off the dashboard is right now we have 560 units that need to be approved. That means this is the work we have to do today. So the goal today is that this is 0. Okay, we have 533 items that we need to set comps for. It's going to take us 30 seconds to a minute per item, if that, and we just need to knock it out and go through it. This is really important. Especially for the next couple of weeks that we're getting your vendors, though you really don't have a ton of vendors, but this is when the order guides were last updated. So over the as we're teaching your vendors, so like Cisco, once your EDI credentials come in, then Cisco will update every morning, right? Every morning, is that how it works?
Yeah, it will
Cisco?
start updating. It should start updating every morning, like today
Okay. And then, so we're gonna pull in your order guides
or tomorrow.
through EDI, and that'll be an everyday. Fresh Point also will be automatic, Dawn? Fresh Point?
FreshPoint, normally we update FreshPoint once a week.
Okay.
Unless you request it more than that, we can set it up to do it as many times as you want.
Okay.
Okay, so we can, for now, you're getting updated pricing once a week?
Correct.
Okay, so Sundays, Mondays?
Sunday night, Monday morning, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and, I'm just gonna take some notes, make sure that we set those things up.
Most of our vendors do that. Pricing starts Mondays, the beginning of the week.
So do you want to turn Cisco off, or you want to leave it on for a daily update?
The reason-
If it doesn't, daily's fine. It doesn't
The
hurt us.
reason we do it daily is if your rep does go in and change something on an order guide today, it will update the next morning.
And if they add a new product, which is
Yeah.
nice, then you don't have to, like if you ordered something over the phone yesterday, a brand new item, and you just called them because it's not in your order guide, then by the time you get your order in tomorrow, that item's already, because we've updated that morning, that new product code is in there, the brand, the pack size, so all you're doing is linking it versus having to type in all that information. Okay? So your wine vendors, your liquor, beer, and wine vendors typically don't update their order guides, right? You're not going to get them to update an order guide.
That's the funny thing with liquors.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they don't even, unless you're talking case breaking, but they have different rules and ways of doing things currently. We're working with them on that right now.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is get them to give us a blanketed pricing for all our stores. Right now, it's a little wonky. You can buy Bullet Bourbon, one price at the Firestone and different price at the Lodge.
Perfect.
So we're trying to get that all leveled out.
And if you get that leveled out, so what we would want to do is whether even if you maintain that, right, so that you could then, because Don created a bid sheet for your liquors. So if we made, instead of multiple bid sheets,
I'll email them to you.
we make one bid sheet for all of the locations, then what we can do is, let's say you guys negotiate pricing and now Absolute just dropped $2, you can update it, send it to your Gmail accounts, and all of the accounts will be updated. So it's...
You have to show us how to do that.
Yeah, we will. Yep. So the idea, so we've already created the bid sheet because the liquor reps don't have one, so we just create it for you.
Copy that.
And then you can just update the pricing as it adjusts.
Now,
okay?
we can still receive product if we receive. So, for example, just spitfire here. Like, let's say they have a buy one case of Absolute, get another case half off deal. We're not going to be able to get that into our system in that moment because it would be,
You'll
very
just
cumbersome.
receive it that way.
We can just receive it that way and then update it from there.
Yeah,
what we
and then-
paid for it.
And then, you update it as you receive the invoice.
All right, and that'll update our per ounce costing on
Absolutely.
that as well.
Yep, that's exactly how it would be doing it. Yeah. Okay.
Been curious about this because our tools are very,
You're
designed
gonna,
for that. So.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to do that. And we have to talk about how free bottles work. So I'll write that down as a separate conversation. Different restaurant groups handle free bottles differently. So how you want to receive it into it.
That's a question.
Yeah, so
Some,
we'll just have a
some
conversation.
managers don't even put it in inventory. They just
Correct.
pour it off. Some
Or
take
drink
home.
it.
Or drink it.
So
We always encourage them to try to sell it. But
right, and that's where a lot of restaurants will, like, let's say you get a free bottle of tequila. A lot of restaurants will just receive it in as their well,
Right.
so that they'll make their well
Mm-hmm.
a generic, just called well tequila, versus a name. So then whatever you're receiving in, you receive it in as well.
And then same thing with like substitutions on certain house wines or whatnot.
Correct.
Occasionally they'll run out of our Cabernet or they'll run out of our Chianti and they'll
Right.
send us a substitution instead.
Correct.
We don't
So-
necessarily want it to be a different line item. We want it to kind of like fold into the same line.
Exactly. So you can so the raw material for your Cabernet should just be house cab.
Right.
And then when you change, because in 6 months, if you change your brand, then you don't have to change all your recipes.
Right.
Because it's all linked to house red. You just receive it in as house red.
And occasionally they'll do a 1.5 instead of a 750 because they don't have any 750s. They'll do
Then we
a
have to do a conversion for that.
Conversion, right.
Yeah, and we can. We just have to do it. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's kind of the overview of the software. Okay? Any questions just from an overview perspective? Okay, so let's go in and I want to show you now. I want to detail look at the product list, the order grid, and the order. We're going to now detail into these. So the product list is the raw materials that you gave us. Okay, so you have 54 pages of 10 per page. You can go to 200 per page. 200 per page, and now all the items.
This
in
is
there.
everything, liquor and food,
Everything.
but you can separate it.
Yeah. Well, here we have categories, all categories: beer, chemicals, cooler staples, draft beer, dry, frozen liquor, meat, mixers. Those are all of our categories. Okay, and that's where we're going to link our GL codes to.
Okay.
We also can pull it up by storage. So if you just want to look at the items that are linked to the cooler, that's where it's going to be. And this is all new. Units of measure is what we're going to be working on today. Okay, this is the most important thing that we do.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's talk about on-grid versus, and when we look at the grid, we'll talk about on-grid versus off-grid. So you can click on this edit. You can click on this edit right here and change anything. So if you wanted to call it asparagus jumbo, you would just change the name right here. The unit of measure is pound, but we're going to be coming into it. When we go in, we're going to be setting and showing you where we set the unit of measure and how to change it. The category is produce. It's in the cooler. Par level, right now, so par level right now, all we have, and we talked about this, we have just one number per item. We do have it in development that we'll be adding 2 more functionalities to it, is different par levels, so a Monday par level or a high volume par level. So you'll have a checkbox to activate a par level on the grid. And then the third phase of that will be integration to POS. So it has a suggested par level, so based on your sales. But we're only right now at phase 1 of that implementation. And yielding out items, this is a basic yield on the purchasing side. We do need to talk about, and we talked about this, the meats specifically at the lodge, and talking about how to yield that better.
We have a yield log that we put in, so we can actually alter that on a weekly basis as we need.
And eventually I'd like to yield that yield log in the software, but we'll talk more about that.
Produce is just equally as important for yielding as well, because produce is up there in our purchases, and it also does have a specific yield per vegetable. So,
Perfect.
I mean, asparagus is like, what, 80% yield? You know, when you start buying it by the pound, you might only get, you know, like a 5-pound box might only yield you about 4 pounds of actual usable product.
Correct. So we're going to yield your raw materials there. Okay. Okay. So any questions on the product list? So this is new for you, this product list. Once we set comps, now we can manage and see who are we buying that product from. So here, if we had multiple vendors, we'd have a line for each vendor. If FreshPoint had 3 different products, we'd have 3 lines for FreshPoint and then 1 line for Cisco.
All right, and then eventually we'll have Mr. Green's in there as well.
This is
Yep,
exactly
yep.
what I did setting up with Compete, but this is a lot more user-friendly.
Yeah.
But like as far as asparagus goes right now, is there a comparable where we have to set that up? Like Cisco
Right now,
obviously has asparagus.
Yeah, we haven't. That's
We
what
just-
we're going to
yeah,
be doing
okay,
next.
okay.
So we haven't done that yet. Okay, so we hit cancel. Okay, so that's where you're going to be. So now, if any of the units of measure don't match, so pound to ounce, then this icon will turn red. Okay, it'll also error out when they try to order. They still can order because we don't want to stop it, but it's going to tell you got a unit of measure that's wrong, a conversion unit of measure. So that icon turns red if it's wrong. Okay, when we inactivate an item, and I'll show you how to do that, we basically are taking it off the grid and off of this list. So then if you wanted to look at inactive items, you can go to inactive items and it would give you a list of any inactive items. This way, if you wanted to reactivate an item, let's say, you know, you did a turkey special for Thanksgiving, you're going to inactivate that item. It's no longer on your grid. You're no longer seeing it.
How do you deactivate an item?
You're going to do that on the grid. I'll show you when we get there.
Oh, I see. You got it right here, active.
Yeah, that's
Is
just
it
what you're
possible
looking
for
at.
a store to have 2 different order guides? Like, since we're doing a menu change and stuff, and we're going to be doing a lot new product and maybe different vendors, like, is there a way to do it so that, like, you know what I mean?
A different grid?
Yeah.
Okay. So
For one store.
there's lots of different ways of sorting the grid. But in the old world of Dining Edge, you had multiple drop-down
okay.
boxes. We don't do that anymore because
She won't let me do it anymore.
it doesn't.
So, like,
The flow of data doesn't
yeah.
Yeah,
balance.
that's why.
Okay, so because you're basically managing 2 restaurants then, and then you can't, in the way Dining Edge works.
Yeah, I got you.
So I will not let anybody do that anymore. So we'll talk about
Okay.
what the best way to accomplish what you're doing is.
Because, yeah.
And we can do it through storages.
Okay.
So that's one of the ways we can do it. We can do it through categories, or we can do it through order guides. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So that's the category list. When we want to add a new item, we click on Add New Item. Everything starts as a product. There's different places in the software to add a new product. You don't have to come here, but this is just one
You
place.
can do it right off the grid.
Now you can. You couldn't before.
There you go.
You couldn't add a new product. You could add
Oh,
a new
you can
vendor.
add comparables and
Yeah.
stuff, but yeah.
Now you can add a new product.
A new
on the
line
grid.
item, yeah.
Yeah. So here, this is one way of doing it. Another way is on the grid. There's now a plus sign. Also by order guide. That's another way of doing
When
it.
you add a new item, can you determine where it's going to live inside the list?
Well, you set it up there. Put it
No,
there.
this list is just alphabetic,
Okay.
and then you sort by category storage. You can deal with where it's going to live on the grid, because the grid we sequence
But eventually
for
we can
ordering.
order our order guides to follow our shelves.
And that we're going to do
On
on
the
the
grid,
grid.
On the grid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this where you put like all the supplies? So things that come into our office, like menu printing invoices and things like that. How does that fall into place of putting in invoices through Dining Edge?
So do you charge the restaurants for for a portion of it, or the
Like-
menu printing?
For Arthur Printing, they'll send us an invoice for like $500 to print menus for one of the locations. Can we enter that invoice through Dining Edge? Because that's what
Yes,
Bill's
we
wanted
can.
to do.
Yes, absolutely. So what we will need to do, and when you and I sit down, we can do that, is we come up with let me just make a list, the miscellaneous
Okay.
categories.
Okay.
So it'll be marked, because we're not going to put, unless you want, we could put menus in there and all of that. Or we could just come up with like miscellaneous marketing, miscellaneous repair and maintenance,
So basically,
miscellaneous,
to add categories and to add vendors, we'll have
and items even.
and items. We
Items.
can do that ourselves. We won't need to bother you every time.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so then
Like,
that's what I'll do
get rid of
from
QuickBooks.
my end. Yeah.
Well, no,
No, you gotta import
because you
it
pay
in.
your bills in QuickBooks,
Yeah.
but eventually do an in-store P&L. So we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Okay, a true in-store P&L, but that's where that report was, that budgeting report. That's the start of an
No,
in-store P&L.
Our dream is that everything will live in one place, so that the Carolyn would be able to, go to one place for each store rather than going to, having to deal with 50 million things.
So the store level manager and all other invoices in here, and then you can enter invoices here too that you receive, and then it'll dump into QuickBook on a nightly basis or a
Okay.
weekly basis, depending on what you want.
Okay.
We either can create an output file nightly, or we can create an output file weekly. Most accounting does weekly.
That's weekly?
Yeah, it just depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
And
For
we can
some
start
stores, we might want
daily.
nightly.
Yeah, maybe start daily
And if
then.
it's like, if you're not getting, you know what I mean? If you're not getting to it daily, that you're doing that import, then you'd have to do 7 imports versus 1.
Question: will it, if you import,
I'll think
let's say you,
about it.
you do it a Monday, a Tuesday, but you forgot to do Wednesday, and then you try to do at the end of the week?
No, it's going to be in her
weekly?
email.
What I mean is will it overwrite the existing data?
No, because she's going to get an output file every week for anything that hasn't been exported. It won't export something twice.
Oh, okay. Nice.
It only exports once.
Oh.
So that if we do it weekly, it's going to be everything that hasn't been exported since the last
So if she did a
export.
daily on Monday or Tuesday and decided she didn't want to do that.
No,
for
it'll be
weekly-
automatically every night.
Every night it would send to my email.
Well, I know, but like, let's say you changed it to weekly after doing it.
Oh, okay, yeah, then it's only going to do what we haven't done since the last export.
Okay.
hmm
Alright.
But like, it's just
Overlapping.
No, yeah, it can't create. And anyways, QuickBooks would error out because it won't allow for a duplicate invoice.
Oh, yeah, well.
Yeah. No, it won't.
It won't.
I put all the preferences on.
And Dining Edge won't.
Oh.
Dining Edge won't allow for a duplicate invoice either.
I was gonna say when I was doing it, it was. I was like,
Yeah,
oh.
no, I changed all that because
Yeah.
I wasn't selected in QuickBooks, so there's. I know.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
Yeah.
duplicate invoices are not allowed in Dining Edge, and I'm glad it's not allowed in QuickBooks. So okay.
So I'm gonna click it off.
Okay, so any questions on the product list? Okay, so, and we'll talk about the miscellaneous categories and how you want to do that, whether some items we may want to do for menus and cups and pens, and we want to do that marketing stuff because you want to see how much you have and
Yeah.
maybe even inventory it once in a while. But then maybe
Like
repair and maintenance, you're not going to put paint and screwdriver, right? You may just do a miscellaneous.
I broke out categories, so can we put those in
You can do
there?
as many as
Okay.
you want. So,
Perfect.
okay.
I'm excited.
All right, so okay, and then the managers would be entering those invoices. So instead of things coming to the office,
What about
here?
what about
locksmith and whatever?
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, so like let's say I have a receipt that I just gave him. I had to go to Home Depot to get some keys made, or I had to go to the hardware store to buy some fans and some lights or whatnot. So those are receipts. We could enter those in here as well.
Absolutely, petty cash.
Petty cash.
Yeah, so we would need a paid in and a paid out vendor,
Perfect.
and
They do
And-
through Aloha too.
you
Do
typically
paid in and
you do
paid-
that now
No, they
Oh,
don't.
you should.
I know.
because then it deducts it from your cash owed.
Correct, and then that would be
I
the
like
ideal
that
way, but
setup.
that's not the way Daniel wanted us to do it, so we always did it the other way. I know, I'm with you, I used to do that at other stores. This company did not want it done that way.
Yeah, he's back and forth because when I suggested
try it
it,
again.
he was into it.
Mm.
So we'll see. Well, yeah.
The
we'll
nice thing
test
is then
it.
is your cash owed balances at the
It
end
was
of the day.
basically for the same reason when he does his payables on Monday, he likes to see everything, in front of him. Whereas if it's done like on a nightly through the stores, it could slip by him. So, because it's already been paid. That was, I think, his main reason at the time. But who knows? It could have maybe
Okay.
changed.
Bring it up to then.
Yeah, no, I'll bring it up to him.
Okay, so we'll add a paid in and paid out vendor so that you can then put in, so if you go to Publix, for instance, and you buy lemons, so you have 2 options. One is add the raw material called lemons associated with Publix,
Yes.
right? Or do it under miscellaneous produce because you bought so little so few times. So like I was at a restaurant yesterday that they always buy Ken's Light Italian dressing at Publix.
That makes
They buy every month they go and buy 1 bottle or 2 bottles. That's because they do it all the time. They put it in as a raw material for the vendor Publix.
It's for Vinny. He comes in on Thursdays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a country club, so it's exactly what it was.
Yeah, I know that well.
But if you're just doing it, you don't want every item to be associated with Publix just because it's a lot of work to do that. So you have to make a determination of when is it important to have the vendor itself in there and when is it important to have the item specific versus miscellaneous categories. That's up to you guys.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right, so now let's get to the grid because this is the work.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay. So this is our order grid, and what we're going to find is right now everything is red, needs to be worked, except for the asparagus that we did. So what our work today is to
all the red
go
buttons
in, exactly, at 533 items. So let's use cheddar jack cheese shredded as an example, okay? And the most important thing I can tell you today is units of measure,
Yep.
okay? Because what we do today will dictate everything that we do moving forward. Okay. So we have Cisco and Breakthrough Beverage that have an item that has the word cheddar jack cheese or shredded in it. And the reason why Breakthrough Vendor is because Jack Daniels is there.
When we're doing
Jack-o'-lantern.
the grid
Oh,
like
sorry.
this,
Mhm.
can we just do food vendors?
Yes, absolutely, and I'll show you that in just a second. So what we're doing here,
Or
so
Captain Blast.
you see here is this cheddar jack cheese shredded, is this product right here the product?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so we check that off, okay? Is this,
And then you can do your main and then have your
yeah, I'm gonna get there in a
subs
second.
underneath. Okay.
Is this a product?
Looks like it.
Yeah, it's the same thing, just only a 5-pound bag.
Got it, so that's your split.
Correct.
Okay, so Dawn's gonna have to help us in a second.
Oh, I see. With
Okay.
Cisco. Okay. This is all
Yeah.
Cisco.
Yeah, so this is your master spec item?
The first one, yeah.
For cheddar jack, that would be it. Yeah.
Okay. We always hit, and this is what's going to be different for you, every time. Nobody hits save and close without hitting the word you. Okay? The most important thing.
U for update.
No, you for units of measure. Okay? So, how do we manage shredded jack cheese? Good morning.
Well, hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
We're recording for you.
Dawn,
I'm Niels.
Good to see you.
Nice
How are you?
Thank
Good to
you.
see you.
So,
Pound.
pound.
No, there's a chair over here. There's a chair.
Oh,
So you see how the software did that math for you? We read it. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is confirm that the unit of
But when
measure
you're doing
is...
it with comparables, you have to make sure that the unit of measure
yes,
is the same.
yes,
Otherwise, it.
yes.
Okay.
So the things that we're making sure is that you manage it by the pound, right? That your restaurant group is not managing that by the 5-pound bag,
Correct.
right? You are managing it by the pound. And we're going to do some examples
Yes.
that aren't as straightforward as this one. So pound, that the split is 5, and that the full case is 20. Everybody agrees that that's an okay. So we hit okay, save. We save and close, and our first
you're an
comparable is
expert in
that.
this thing already anyways, right? You work with that, so you're...
Yes.
Yeah.
So you see here that the case is your master spec item, okay? So now we have 2 items for that item. Okay.
Now, when FreshPoint gives us an updated list, because they actually do carry that cheese, that'll eventually populate into this list as well, and then we can add it.
We can add it, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways of adding it.
Okay.
One is right here, but like think about you add Cheney to this list now. You don't want to have to come through all 350 items that they want, right?
Well, we
It's gonna
would
be a
need
lot.
to just to make sure that they are accurate.
Yeah, but there's an easier way of doing it.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you on the next when we get to order by order guide
All right.
how we assign new vendors, which is all new. We never have to come through and check every single line item for comps after the first time. Okay, the first time is the worst, and it says. So let's use some examples now that aren't so straightforward as this. And what's that called? That hot sauce called?
There is
Hot sauce?
only one vendor, we only get that... we
Okay,
get
give me
the
something
custom
at
made.
Public. Oh, ketchup. Let's
You
do
could do
ketchup.
you could do this one, Chihuahua. Cholula. Or Cholula.
Well, we're gonna do ketchup upside down squeeze.
For the dog.
Okay. Ketchup upside down squeeze. Okay, is gonna be different than what we just looked at because see the unit of measure that Cisco says. is ounce, but you don't manage it by the ounce, right?
No.
No.
No,
You manage by the each, right? So is this a comparable? Is this your comparable item?
I mean, for now, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So now we're gonna always hit you, and we have to make a change because we're not gonna manage this by the ounce.
Do by the unit.
We're gonna manage it by the unit. And watch, it's gonna do the math 90% of the time. We read that description and know that it's 30 units, 90% of the time. 10% of the time, it's not. Like if it's a number 10 can, because it doesn't know the difference between 10 pounds and a unit, a can. Okay, so that's why we hit you every single
But
time.
number 10 can's an option to
Yeah,
measure unit, right?
it's gonna be unit, okay?
Just gotta verify,
So-
like it thinks it's 10-pound can.
Right, and that would be even different, yes. So we just hit, and now we hit save and close, and now that ketchup is by the unit, $1.87 a unit, upside down squeeze, 20 ounce, all perfect, right?
And now if you put a second ketchup in, it's gonna break it down by ounce pricing to compare the pricing.
By unit price.
You'd have to change it to unit.
So now, that's the next conversation I'm gonna have. So let's say you decide to bring in a 16 ounce
Right.
squeeze bottle. So there's different scenarios. One is this ketchup isn't recipeed, it's a varianceable item, right? So we don't care. We're gonna have 2 line items and we are gonna change this description to upside down squeeze 20 ounce, upside down squeeze 16 ounce, okay? If it was a recipeable item, right? So now it's, I don't know, filet, and you buy filet either by the pound or by the steak. Then we have to either manage it by the smallest unit of measure. It no longer can be unit, it has to be pound or ounce. It has to be an even keel.
But that is where your price comparison gets to be much more powerful, because by the unit now I gotta manually verify that they're the same size.
Well, no, you only do it here. You wouldn't have put them on the same item as we're setting our
Right.
comp. You wouldn't put it there.
But basically the purpose would be to have everything in a verifiable per ounce, per pound, per whatever cost basis, so that the system can tell you, because otherwise also the system will tell me you should buy a different ketchup.
Right, so 95% of the items, sour cream's always packed the same way. It's very few items that are gonna fall into that, but yes, you have to make a decision on those. Spices are an example, right? So spices can come in all different pack size. So when we do, let's say black pepper, Schreiber packs it in a 5-pound container, Cisco packs it in a 1-pound container, standard unit of measure, pound. So when we count Schreiber, we say 5 pounds, and when we count Cisco, we say 3 pounds. So then in that case, it would never be unit for Schreiber pepper. So that's why every item has to be thought through and decided on as to what the lowest common denominator is and how you want to manage it.
Let's say avocados, because like the pack size from Mr. Green's is different than from Fresh Point.
Then it should either be each or pound.
It should
Depends
be
on.
each, because we count them by each
Correct.
one. So right now we run to the size difference. Right now they're much smaller than they usually are, because kind of whatever harvest time and bullshit they have, so you get much less usable
Price
power.
actually dropped.
Yeah, so
In 2 more weeks,
71.
it'll be back.
Yeah. So that's where each item, that's what we're going to be doing today, is making those decisions as to how, because this unit of measure, so now fast forward a bit, is to when we start doing variance reporting, is what the unit of measure variance will be in. The reporting unit of measure is this unit of measure.
Yeah.
So when I want to just look at bottled beer, for example, bottled beer would be unit, not ounce, right? Because when I look at a variance report, I would never want to see I'm missing 17 ounces. I want to
Except
see.
this PBR tall boys. No, you're.
So does that make sense here for unit of measure? Okay. What do you buy by number 10 can?
Do you think maybe on a newer
By
on
number
a-
10 can,
on the next
black beans.
Black bean? Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe on the next version we could get like a secondary, like an RU2, like we do on our current cookbooks. We do like an RU1 and an RU2, so we can actually look at it not only by the unit but by the ounce. If it comes to pack sizes being
We've
different
talked
units.
about having a comparable unit of
secondary
measure.
unit, yeah.
We've talked about that, but right now it's not available.
Okay.
Do you usually
And it's
wanna
very
use-
few items. I mean, I've been doing this a long. There's very few
Like
items.
you were saying, like
Unit
something
of
like squeeze
measure,
ketchup. Yes,
but how
you're
you're
right. There might be a
counting it,
16.
right?
There might be a
And
20.
And it's
Right.
not
And
a
it would-
very.
It would be nice to know what the actual price
And
is
we
per
put
ounce.
for them, we would put them right above each other.
Mhm.
So you would look at 16, you'd look at 20, and it would be right next to
You
each
got
That's
your-
the ones where you look
right.
at manually when you see the recommendation
Yeah, like
coming
you would
up,
have
just
your-
kind of verify.
No, you'd have your managed units, then you'd have your comparable units.
Yes, and we've talked about a third a unit of measure, which is comparable unit of measure. We just haven't done that yet. Okay, so we click on, I forgot to show you, we click on the word AC, which is approved comparable, and that item's ready to go.
Now hang on real quick with those. Can we lock all those cells down as we go to be not picked by dining edge of the get-go which vendor we're buying them from? Because we said for the first week or two, I basically want to run just as what we're ordering right now. Like,
Well, that's all we
Yes.
have. There's no other.
Yeah.
All we have is Cisco.
It's just these.
So we
but,
would,
like,
if you
don't have
wanted
others.
to
One
do
thing
that,
Fresh Point is
You
not
will.
important. Like,
Well, that's all we have is Cisco and Freshman. We don't have anybody else to.
well,
compare
let me,
to.
Neil, let me show you that. So let's say you wanted to only order from Cisco for
in
the
a few
first
days
couple
we
of
will.
weeks.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Like we're going to
Watch.
import the other order guys.
But we're
I don't
gonna
want to
say
do
I
right.
only want to order from Cisco, and I click on this, and then I uncheck all, and I'll, sorry,
Well, I
uncheck
don't-
all, and I just want to order from Cisco.
But I don't. Well, we're ordering from Cisco. We're ordering from Freshpoint. We're ordering from Jeff Sunset Spice. I just want to make sure that whatever we are getting right now, what you're getting right now, is what automatically the system will pick because we lock all those cells down for the time being. Exactly.
Perfect. So
That's
then
kinda-
just go like this when we set our master spec.
right, and then
Click
after
that.
3 days when we look
Then
at
you'd
now,
have to uncheck those.
once GFS and Cheney and everybody imports in there, you're going to see it side by side, and then on your order, it's going to tell you you spent this, you could have spent that.
Correct.
And then we're going to go through and say like, why are we ordering these tomatoes? Why are we ordering these onions? And then we kind of go through. But I don't want, once we import them and you don't lock it down, the system would
Pick what item.
default to the best price.
Well, it will
and
just
suddenly
highlight
get all
it. You
kinds
would
of
still
different
You
click.
still
You
click
still
it.
click manually yourself. So like right now for the next week, I know I'm only ordering from Cisco right now. I don't. The system may highlight a different price on a different vendor.
But then you have to manually verify each item.
No, when you
No, when you just go like this and you just pick Cisco, then when you hit best price
yeah,
and
okay.
quality, it'll only pick Cisco. It won't pick Freshpoint, even though they're cheaper.
Well,
It'll,
because we're ordering here from Freshpoint.
Yeah. But if Cheney was on here
if
right
Cheney
now,
was on there,
you could do
you would
it so
just
that
click
we're just
Cisco
selling to
and
Cisco.
Freshpoint. But it's up to you. You can
hang on,
either
but
set
then you
your.
don't see them. Once you lock it down with the vendor, they don't even show up for you to look at them.
No, they do.
No,
if
they
you
do.
have it
She
on.
just customized it so that was the only one shown.
But that's what I mean. But if
Yeah.
you deselect them, you don't see them.
Correct.
But I don't want to deselect it. I want you to see them, but I want you to order what you have. But I want you to kind of see the side-by-side prices.
So I would say you
But
could lock each
only-
cell down.
Exactly. I want to basically
Yeah, so
see them
then-
all, but lock them down together
Well,
so
you
you
just-
just see them. But
you
it's
just-
still
but you don't
orders.
even have to lock You it just down.
Is
check
that
it
what your
because
main is?
you would just
You
order
just go
everything from
down
Cisco.
this list.
Yeah.
You don't have to see when I order. I go like this.
Right.
You pick
Okay.
your unit
So you
and
could
then-
just go down the Cisco list
Instead of
and
going
not
on the
even
master,
touch the
okay.
and not click on best price or quality.
Okay.
So you'd have Freshpoint, Cisco, and Cheney, and you
Okay.
just go
As long
back
as we
and
make
forth.
sure that everybody understands this. I just don't want suddenly 6 trucks to show up and they're sitting in the store like and they get everything from somewhere different where they used to and it looks different and they're
And
like,
then
what
your
the
products.
heck?
Yeah. They don't have to. You'll just tell them I only want to place an order from Cisco, and that's what it will be. So it's up to you. You could either check that checkbox off right there. It's just more work because then once you check it, then you have to uncheck it. So it's
just-
up to you.
If we were all on the same page and we know what's going on, it's not necessary to lock them currently.
Is that the video that afterwards? No, I told you that.
That is. Okay, so black bean. So I'm searching right here, black, enter. Okay, and it's gonna go, when I did that, what it's doing is looking not only from your raw materials, but also any vendor items that it's gonna be searching throughout. So once their comparables set, let's say black beans are attached to garbanzo beans will come up. Okay, so now it's only bringing up things that are attached to black or raw materials because I have no comp set. So I'm going to click on black beans. I'm going to click on this. We did this because we're going to look at the number 10 can. Okay, here's 6 number 10 cans, right? As that is your product. Whoops.
No.
Is that your master spec item? Yes.
Correct.
That's who you're buying from today. Okay, so we made it a master spec.
Mhm.
We always,
Like you.
nobody else has it. We always click you. And now, you see it did it already. It changed it to unit, but we want to make sure that it did it and it doesn't say pound, okay? So save and close, and now, because I ordered one thing. And so now it's $370 a unit. Okay.
And then we hit the AC.
And then we hit the AC. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So, give me another, let's look at eggs. You buy eggs here?
Would it be nice if we could put our GL codes right in there?
Yeah.
You will. They're going to be
we're
linked to
gonna do
these
that.
categories. See this cooler right here?
Category. Okay.
That category, or that cooler staples, is going to be linked to one of her GLs automatically. So you're not going to have to do anything with that.
Actually, you want to do sour cream?
Sure.
Because I know most places get the 4 or 5 pound tubs, but we also get the bags, which are 4.5 pounds. So,
Okay, so that's a great example. So we have to manage sour
Yeah.
cream by the pound.
Okay.
Okay? So let's look at that great example. Okay, so 6 4.5 pounds.
yeah, from Cisco, and then Fresh Point should have. I don't know if it's gonna be on there or not yet, but
We don't have Fresh Point in yet.
okay.
That
So
item in yet.
when it is,
Okay.
that'll be 4 or 5 pound tubs instead of
Got
bags.
it. So we're going to click on you. Okay? Is this going to be your master spec? Who do you normally buy it from? Both 80/20.
Right now, Cisco.
Okay. So we're going to click on the U. Sorry, I just hit your screen. Did I make it out of focus? I'm
That's
sorry. U. And we're going to change, it already says to fat pounds.
Mhm.
It's 27 pounds. It already did the math. And when we bring in Fresh Point, it'll already do the math to pound.
Now, if we
Okay?
didn't want pounds, would we be able to? You can just drop it down. Okay.
Okay. You would change it to unit. Okay. And even when you change it to unit, it'll say 6. It knows the math based on the description. What happens is the produce companies, when the description isn't good, you have to do the math, and that's where it comes
But
in.
you'd want to do it by
The
pounds.
bunches
That
and
way
all
your
that,
price per
is that
pound.
where it doesn't read
You want
it?
to have
What?
good
When
units.
Exactly.
they give it to you by like the bunch, is that
If
how
their
they
description doesn't say it. If their
Okay.
description says 5 bunches, then we're gonna, and you
Yeah, like if-
manage it by the unit, we're
So
gonna
if we
see
get a
5.
60
That's by the bushel.
By the bunch, yeah.
Right. Or
Okay.
like
The
lemons
bunch.
is 165 pound. If you want to manage it by the case, it'll say 1. But if you say unit, it's gonna say 165. But you always check it. Okay.
Okay.
Always hit the U and check it.
I don't care.
Okay. Save and close. And now it says 114 a pound. Also confirm your pound site. Because what we'll see in this initial upload is sometimes there's some conversion issues with the order guides from pound to unit to each that we just need, and case prices. So we just need to make sure, like we saw, like duck breast was like $30,000 a pound or a case or something. So we just had to make an adjustment in the definitions in the background of the software. So over the next couple days, if we see anything totally out of whack, Don just needs to make a change in the software. Okay. So any questions with this?
I'm okay right now.
Okay, so now let's look at order by. So, Lance, are you good?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what our homework is
Just a
today.
quick question. What does AC stand for again?
Approve comparable.
And AU?
What's AU stand for?
Approved unit.
Approved unit.
Approved unit.
Okay.
And that's when the units of measure don't balance, right?
So we have to
Done
make
when the
sure.
unit of measure doesn't
So basically,
balance.
if it's green, it's done. If it's red, it still needs to be done.
Correct.
Go and make sure it's approved
Yeah, and
before we can even order.
AU means the units of
Always
measure
do it
don't
once.
match. One says pound, one says ounce.
Copy.
And on the product list, it's going to say in red right here on that unit. So what did we just do? We just did black beans.
This way.
Okay. So black beans. So it would say right here in red that it wasn't right. Okay. Right here under units of measure.
Got it.
Okay, so order by order guide. That's the next one. And this is where we're gonna, so here, so when you order off the grid, think about ordering from multiple vendors at one. Instead of having all your different clipboards, right, to place orders, you're placing one order and the software compares it and distributes it.
I would say
Okay.
it's 90% of the time you're using the grid.
Correct. But like this guy, right, that you're buying the
yeah.
one thing, if you just have to order from him, you can just come in to him. What's his name?
Sunset Spice.
Okay, and we don't have that yet.
But even when you're on the grid, you can just knock it down to one anyway. So
Correct.
That'll be one we're most likely gonna have to enter ourselves. He's not a computer savvy.
Sunset Spice.
Sunset Spice.
Okay, but let's say maybe one of the other restaurants has like a specialty dessert guy, but they have 10 items that they just get from him, and they only place that order once a month. And they don't want it on the grid. They don't even need those items on the grid. It just clutters it. So now you can put items on the grid or off the grid. Or you have once a month you do a prime rib night, and these are the 10 items that you have to
Oh, for
order.
Firestone, they do
Like,
They do banquets, and they will bring in specific items for their banquets
Correct, right.
once or twice a year.
Right, so we don't need all those items on the
Pies,
grid. Exactly.
right.
So what we would do is maybe we'd create a category
Okay.
called specialty items.
Specialty items.
Or we'd create, or we would look at it by vendor or whatever they want to do. They can search it.
Would these specialty items, would we then be able to GL code them individually? Because
No, it'd be one then. So that's where you have to look
that
at
would
it.
be tricky. We'd have to line item those.
Yeah, so okay. But my point is just to get them together. So like let's say we were looking at Firestone or a specific vendor, and so let's say it was Cisco, and we would just search apple pie, and what we can do is those items aren't on the grid. So we can just order them right here versus having them on the grid. Some people like to place their liquor orders that way too. Okay, so they don't want to order one big liquor list and let the software distribute it. They want to go into breakthrough beverage. They want to go into each one individually.
Yes, which-
So completely up to you. So the decision is whether it's on. Oh, let me just go in and look at that.
A lot
So
of
if you
times
want
we
to,
do that for minimum cases, so we can make sure that we have the right amount of order. Otherwise, we just don't do the order. You know, if it's like, all right, well, I can do but one bottle of Jack Daniels is all I need, but I'm not going to place an order for one bottle of Jack. So let's just skip that and we'll place it next
and
week.
so then we may go on the order by order guide, or we may go on the grid. So if we don't want an item on the grid, watch this. This is new. So you hit the X. Okay, I'm not going to do it, but it's going to come up with 3 options. Okay, cancel, which is what I'm going to hit. Remove from grid, but it's still on the order guide. Okay, and it's still in the product list. And then make inactive. It's no longer on the grid, and it's no longer on the order guide. Okay.
And then you can just go back in and make it active
Make it
again
active
if you need
later,
it.
right? So if there's these 10 items that you order just for Thanksgiving, you're just taking it out of it.
Active and from the order, remove from the order guide. If they update the order guide, it will not re-import it then?
No, it'll
Okay.
leave it in an archived section of the software, and then you can always unarchive it as well.
Because that'll happen with Cisco's list. They'll keep stuff on there for 6 months. So.
Yeah, but then these are your raw materials, not necessarily your vendor item code. This is your raw material, okay? If you don't want, if the vendors change it, so let's say you no longer want to buy the split, you would just X that off, and that's no longer a vendor product. on
Or
your
we didn't
grid.
want them ordering a split.
Correct.
Got it.
Okay, you see? So
I'm sure what it yeah.
So this is for taking it and we either remove it from the grid, and that's a great way, like if we make everything active, and then we can always take things off the grid so that they don't see. It's faster to take it off the grid than to add it to the grid, okay? Okay, so now let's talk about, I don't need to come in here necessarily. So doing liquor, there's 2 ways of doing it. We can do the same thing, or we can just come here, and this is where we would handle new vendors completely. So let's say we bring in Cheney, right? So first let me show you what you're looking at. All of this, you see how it's white and it's not engaged? That means it's not linked to a raw material, okay? It's a vendor order guide. See, order by order guide. It's a vendor order guide. So this is all of Cisco's products, their description, their pack size, their price, and you can't order it because you don't have it linked, but this is where. So what we do, so I'm gonna bring up those black beans just to show you. So there's the black beans. You see how they're blue? That means they're engaged on the order guide. And if I come over, I can remove it. That's the wrong linking. I can look at the U or change the U, okay? So let's go to breakthrough beverage. So let's say this was Cheney, brand new vendor. We don't want to go through that whole order grid. We just want to go through the items that they've added, because they may add 15 and then tomorrow add another 20, and then maybe it doesn't all come in at once. So then you have to decide which ones were there, which one's there. So here would be their order guide. I want to go breakthrough beverage. There's breakthrough beverage only has 1 item.
A black.
Yeah, because you still got black.
Oh, I'm sorry.
black.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm like, what?
Me too. I was like, wait, no.
We'll never make minimum orders on that one.
Okay, so you see here, Stoli is linked and it's 1 unit. Okay, so now, and this is what we're going to be working on again. And I'm going to come in and do triple sec. and it's looking through all your raw materials. I'm going to click on triple sec. I'm going to check my U. It's 1 unit. None of your pricing is in for liquor, which we'll show you how to add it. That was that order guides that we were talking about, or those bid sheets that we talked about before.
Yeah, because it's not exactly the same.
And we're gonna, that's what we're gonna, one of the things we'll work on
truthfully,
today.
like some of us buy triple sec from one vendor, and some of us buy triple sec from a different vendor. Yeah.
So, and they'll all be linked to triple sec in the same way. So you see how is that simple? And then I just go Jack O list, enter.
Jackal Blast.
And then I want to check my U. Yep, 1 unit, save and close. So it's doing exactly what I did on the grid, but it's vendor by vendor versus product by product. See, on the grid, I was able, let's say we had Fresh Point, Cisco, and Cheney all in, then I can do all 3 vendors at once, or I'm doing it vendor by vendor. So it's the same concept, but as what we're looking to do is I want to make sure this is all blue.
Right.
So I'm going to go through and make sure all of Breakthrough Beverages items are associated.
But if we want to be able to see something like triple sec, for example, we want to be able to see what it sells for through R&DC. We want to see what
it's still on my
Breakthrough has
it's still on my grid.
Yeah, on the grid you'll see.
You'll see it.
So like with Grey
It's
Goose.
just so let's look at
Only
the.
one vendor. There's no competitive.
No, I know, but would
So
you count
triple
it by
sec
each,
will
or
be
would it
here.
By a liter or 750 milliliter.
They're
We
standard.
normally count it by
They're
Yeah,
volume.
1
But
liter.
we ordered, see the
Sometimes they
circles?
come in different bottle
Well,
sizes.
we only buy
No,
liters.
we don't
Yeah.
have
Most of our
Yeah.
cordials,
hospitality side is
Wells
no,
cordials and stomps only.
There's
come
a
in.
few that are
certain bottles come in
different.
750s, top
Right.
shelf and this and that, but they come only in 750.
Standard.
And the other ones only come in liters. You don't really get to pick.
See, those, like something like that, we
I've
count by the
I've
bottle.
seen it happen a few times where they're different bottle
Yeah, but if
sizes.
somebody buys retail, like
We've
they're
got-
Yeah,
not
if you
supposed
leave,
to.
you're
Yeah.
actually
We've gotten majority
you're not
of
allowed
the
to.
size bottles.
There's
There's
different
a few.
Okay.
Yeah.
retail. Then they do it on purpose so that a guy who's like auditing you, make sure you're buying your whatever they call that, can look at your bar and make sure all your bottle sizes are the right size. They do it on purpose.
Okay.
Like liters aren't sold in retail
Yeah.
But if it comes
because
in,
it's only for
Okay, but
restaurants.
some-
yeah, if he comes in and sees a Captain Morgan with a handle on it, then you know that can
There's
come
a
with
problem.
You have a 1.5, you like, already that you
So does that
Yeah.
affect, like, so we count it by the each, but we order it by the case. So
Okay,
does that?
so
So
there's
no inventory. You count 12 bottles. You don't
so there's
count-
Yeah.
2 ways of
But when I
doing
order, I
this.
order a case and I order like 1 bottle.
So there's 2 ways of doing this. So on this, so when we go through that bid sheet, Lance,
Yep.
okay, the pack size is going to be case. Okay, so you have 2 options. One is you can order 12 or 6, whatever the case size is, or this line item can be changed from unit, just like we do for cheese, right? That it's case. Now, not everything you buy by the case, right? There's certain things you buy by the case and certain things you buy by the each, right? You're never going to buy Galliano by the case, right? So, unless you make a big mistake. So depending on what you guys want to do, we can change the items that you buy by the case to case price, to case pack sizes here. Or we can leave them and you change it to 12. Completely up to you.
Oh, so if I'm gonna order 5 cases, I just order 60 as opposed
Exactly.
to
It's up to you.
Okay,
Yep.
I got you.
I think it's cleaner. My personal opinion is I think it's cleaner that way because then maybe you know that we buy by the case, but so, you know what I mean. It's just easier. I'm going to buy 60 bottles. Do you get a different
I would-
pricing structure if
When you
you?
buy the case, you get a better pricing.
In food wise, yeah.
Well,
And no, and liquor wise too.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's up to you guys. If you want to always buy certain items by the case, then we'll put the line item for case.
Like beer, bottled beer.
I mean,
Well, that's different. Bottled beer will always be
There's
by the
probably
case. I'm
only
just talking about.
6 to 7 items that I get
mean-
by the case for behind the bar.
So we
so I
can
mean-
we can make those 6 or 7 items say case here.
See,
But
but
what
everything
you're
that's inventoried is by the
You
unit.
just-
No, no, we
exactly.
still- we still
Like, you
manage
just
it by
want
the
somebody to go out
units.
and buy 12 cases, like, so
No,
they
exactly.
don't pay
You know what I
attention.
mean?
It's
So-
2 different
Right.
things though, as far as.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they
No, no,
coincided the
they-
inventory
they-
versus the order.
No, it
Okay.
gets broken down to
Okay.
that unit of measure. The pack size is different than the unit of measure. Just the math has to be right. It has to be unit times 6 or unit times 12.
Yeah, what he's saying is
equals
that
case.
90% of the stuff we buy, we only want to be able to buy it by the bottle.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
We
Up
don't
to
ever
you.
want
Triple
to
sec, you know,
accidentally
certain
Well,
things
order
are
a
triple
case
sec
of
you always buy by
1942.
the case, right?
That, my
That's a
house
different
tequila,
thing. And house
certain
tequila,
tequilas, yeah.
we can put those in by the case.
Yeah.
Because they don't really break that case
It's
anyway.
whatever works best for you and us
The
as
ordering
the store.
process, yeah.
You know?
Okay. So when we do
They
that
don't
bid
dictate
sheet,
anything.
Oh, so
when we do that bid
do-
sheet
we
for
determine
liquor,
that.
Yes.
that's what we're gonna need to determine.
Okay.
And let's say you buy tequila because you buy Cuervo by the case because you're a Mexican place, but Izzy's buys it by the bottle. That's totally fine too. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
can maintain the same.
And we'll do that
bid sheet.
with all the department managers. They'll determine which ones they want by the case, which ones they want by the bottle, which ones they want by both.
Absolutely. Totally up to you.
Sometimes Tito's he might buy just 2 bottles. Sometimes he might want a whole case.
Right.
So,
But Neil's point is right though. You have to be careful because you don't
Yeah.
want to order 12
cases.
by accident. Hopefully your rep would catch it, but
Hope
then
not.
you may deliver it and then.
So on the next
spit out.
version, you're gonna make it so it's color codable too. So
Sure.
customizable.
Yeah. You love colors.
Yellow
Yeah.
is case package.
Okay,
That's an
so
extra.
does that make sense with order by order guide and the best and the way to engage the items there?
Yes.
Okay, so it's personal preference. If you're working on multiple vendors, it's much easier to do on the grid.
Mhm.
If you're working with a single vendor, for me it's easier to do it on the order guide because then it's only giving me the items that they have on there, so you're not clicking on every single one trying to find which items do they have and which
For
items they
liquor,
don't
you
have.
would most
Oh,
likely
yeah, I'm
use
gonna do
this
it
all
by-
the
by
time,
the vendor,
as
yeah.
opposed to me, I would just use the grid because I want the comparables.
Right.
Yeah, because my sheets are split up by vendor anyway.
Yeah.
So it's easy
Liquor
to order.
will
You
most
don't
likely
have
be
much
doing it by
comparables.
vendor.
Yeah.
Right,
No.
exactly.
But no, that we want to be able to see certain, especially with wells and cordials.
But you would still be able to put it on the grid and see it, but
Well,
as
it's
far
also
as
a few
ordering
decisions.
goes,
It's not like it's constant change like other stuff.
True, but like a blackberry brandy is going to be blackberry brandy, whether it's the Kuiper, whether it's by whoever. You know,
It's marginal impact though, Carl.
Yeah.
And we buy our well more strategically from Republic National, whatever,
Yeah.
because we have that deal with them. Also, it's
no, it's marginal, but at least we could be able to see it. There's nothing wrong with seeing it.
Okay, so where we go from here, okay, is that we need to work on comps. So let's work on comps for like an hour. You and I will work on the GL codes. Maybe you work on food and you work on liquor. Does that work? Or if you guys want to work
What's the
together
login?
on
I mean, I
food?
kind of like to work on all of it, but I mean, so I'm familiar with it, how it all works. I don't
Okay, yeah,
wanna
that's
be-
fine. I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever you want. But it just so let's spend an hour just doing some data input.
what is the login for?
Okay.
It's Cabos.
Hold on one second. It's
Sorry.
videotaping right now, so we'll write it down.
Okay.
Needs video.
I'm video recording. It's going on YouTube, so.
So do you have all the GL codes?
I do, so I'll go upstairs
Go
and
grab
go
it.
get, yeah, I'll
Okay.
go print it
Yeah,
out.
print out a GL code report,
Okay.
and then we'll sit here. We'll enter the GL codes. We can all do it together. Aaron, you can get started on
Start on the
comms
food.
so that we can like at least get that
an
going
easy
because
one.
that's gonna take you a couple hours.
That's the majority of it.
On the bottom.
Yeah. Okay, and then anything that's a questionable item. Like, should this be pound? Should this be each? Let's have a
Luckily, you're right here.
Okay, exactly. So, okay. So then let's take a few minute break. I'm just gonna use the restroom and get some water. And if you want to grab it, yeah.